So we have not started as yet. We are waiting for people to join. Aparna is founder of the Blended Finance Company. Sangram, he is Associate Professor, Gujarat Technological University. And Arindam is the Director from Gramin Foundation. And so the guy, he is...
I'm advisor to ILDC and I run a small think tank, Innovative Thought Forum.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm connected, say with the IIAS, like a mentor to the accelerator program that they do.
Yes.
Sir, आपका नाम?
मेरा नाम डंगा एच है. I got limited card, so I'll just give you one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir. Yeah. Sir,
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a few students who are just passing their public
the students are good.
Okay, can we have the door closed? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today we are here for a very impactful and insightful session on empowering rural economies through land-linked models for scaling FPOs, farmer producer organizations, and village-level entrepreneurs. I'll give you some time to settle down. Okay, so the best part about this panel is that we have people from diverse backgrounds. We have experts from the development sector. We have industry experts from finance sector, from the academics, also from the innovation sector. So I think the kind of views and insights that we are going to get for this topic today, we are going to try to weave a story around it so that ultimately we can take home a lot of insight that can be used for policy and innovation going forward. So to start with, the first thing I would request all our speakers to give a brief introduction as well as share what is that one thing that they would like to contribute in today's panel discussion that you can take home as the listener. So we can start with you, Arindam.
Hi, good morning all. I'm Arindam Dasgupta. I'm working with Gramin Foundation for Social Impact and managing the operations of Gramin Foundation for Social Impact in India, as well as heading the strategy part of it. I come from a corporate background actually, so this development sector is something new for me. I've been a career banker, part of Axis Bank large corporate strategy into banking for a couple of decades, and now moved on to the development sector, and the idea behind that is to learn the best practices from the development sector and bring in the knowledge from the corporate sector and make some market-ready products which actually addresses the need for the bottom of the pyramid. Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning and thanks organizer for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to see that a lot of students here. So that gives me kind of energy, to talk more about my work and how can I contribute. So basically I'm coming from a crop development background that we in our lab, so basically I work in R&D as a scientist. So we develop climate resilient crop plants. That is very important cornerstone of farmers or FPOs. And also we look at how we can address through that the climate resilience, not only in terms of the agri inputs but also restoration of land and air, water, and how it will ultimately contributing to the sustainable development goal. So I have traveled across the nation, developed and developing, work in America, Israel, because they are the high-tech guys in agriculture. So I came back to India to contribute India's growth story. So I train students and incubators and some startups from our university. It is a newly established university in the heart of Gift City. You can visit, and if you have some entrepreneurial idea, you are welcome. So we'll help you out as mentor. That's all in short.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bharti, and I work with the Grameen Foundation for Social Impact. I'm currently working as their CEO. I have been in this sector for 27 plus years now, totally into the development sector. Majorly worked in livelihood space and institutional development, means working and to develop very small NGOs. So my work, which I would like to contribute here, the learning and experience that Grameen has had working with small and marginal farmers, especially their institutions, which go by the name of farmer producer organizations. They can be registered as any type of entity, but majority are also as now registered as companies. So how these institutions can bring in socio-economic prosperity through their inclusive models, and what has been our experience of what works, does not work, I would like to share here. Thank you. Happy to be with all of you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Aparna, and I'm a partner and co-founder with the Blended Finance Company. I hope everybody can hear me fine at the back, especially. Okay, great. Just very quickly, my experience has sort of crisscrossed between banking and then impact. So I have about 15 years of experience. I started out as an investment banker on Wall Street. I was with Credit Suisse. But very quickly realized that my passion, and if I was spending those 20 hours working, I wanted to do that in a field that I was truly passionate about. So I moved back to India. I've been in the education, livelihood, largely in the impact sector since then, working across different impact consultancies, and then last 2 years, so 2 years ago, a couple of us, 3 of us co-founders came together to set up the Blended Finance Company. It's a big word, but very simply, all the great work that you see other co-panelists are doing, we act as an enabler to bring everybody together to provide the right financing mechanisms so that the inputs that Sangram talked about, or the work that Bharti and Arindam talked about, the farmer producer organizations, the smallholder farmers, if they have trouble accessing finance, we try and work with partners to see how do we break those silos, how do we enable more finance to flow to them so that they can access the climate smart inputs and anything else. So we do this across sectors, whether it's agri, whether it's skilling, whether it's education, livelihoods, healthcare, so across the spectrum. So sector is not really sort of a focus area for us, but finance is as an enabler, and bringing everybody together to see how do you best use the capital that they have. So if it's CSR or grant capital, how do you apply that? If it's commercial capital, if someone is seeing good returns, how do you best use that so that more money is available for development causes. So that's what we do, and that's the insight that I'll be bringing to the panel as well.
That's wonderful, and I think looking at the diverse backgrounds, I'm sure there's a lot that you all can take home today. My name is Jasmine Gupta. I am Director of Indian Institute of Sustainability at Gujarat University. I've been a banker and a fintech founder, and now leading sustainability related initiatives for the government as well as for the university. So let's begin. So Bharti, the first question to you is what capacities do FPOs need to become financially strong, professionally managed and market-facing institutions? So what capacities do FPOs need? And what does it take to equip them with governance, operational efficiency, market intelligence and financial discipline?
Thank you. So, in the context of today's topic, why we are talking about FPOs is because I don't know to what extent the audience is also all aware. So these are aggregations of mostly smallholders, right? Small and marginal farmers. These are brought together in the form of a company or a cooperative. It will depend on what legal form the association takes. But because the strength of this entity, the farmer producer organization, is in aggregation, so the first capacity that they need to have is to bring various stakeholders together. Means their key clients together. So if they are not representative, so it's a basic institutional capacity to be able to bring all shareholders together. So that from our experience, we are feeling that to prevent elite capture, to prevent actual conversion of a FPO into a single person led or couple of people led organization, because otherwise you will not be able to leverage the aggregation power. So number one capacity is that. Then there are other things like improved governance, their capacity to link with financial institutions and market players, to assess the landscape, to develop a business model. That is a very basic capacity, because if they go on doing what they were doing and only with staples as they do right now, they will not be able to leverage the benefit of aggregation. MSP to milta hai. What next? What is next? So next will come when they are able to diversify their commodities, their processing, the variety of products that they bring. So that particular capacity is very critical, in which we will discuss how finance also plays a critical role. So these are, in our experience, very important for their growth, which means that they should be linked to technical institutions, they should be linked to financial institutions who can provide the right finance at the right time. They should know the market, what is selling, what is not selling. They should be able to manage the stakeholder expectation also, because otherwise shareholders break away. So even the capacity is to keep the flock together, ensure benefits are distributed. So there is a mix of soft and hard skills that they need to have. And then the role of technology, which you cannot ignore in today's world. So if they have to export, so some of our FPOs also export products. They are also learning. With them we learn, they fall, we also fall. Means how your export product gets swapped and you get paid for somebody else's decay. So all these things come through experience. So these cannot be given in classroom or through training. So this experiential capacity building is also critical if we have to leverage the power of the FPOs as key institutions which are actually working with smallholders right now in India.
Well said. I think Grameen Foundation is definitely doing a great job there in capacity building for FPOs. The next question, I think, Neelam, will come to you. On the ground, the village level entrepreneurs, the VLEs commonly known, are often the first digital touch point for farmers. So how can VLEs build or help build digital visibility of farm level income is the first question. And what data can they capture? Sowing, harvest volumes, input purchases, sales, and how can this data become credible for lenders?
Thank you, Jasmine, for putting this question across. So agri entrepreneurs or the village level entrepreneurs often play a key role in the rural economy, where they are basically the touch points between the external world and the smallholder farmers. In today's date, we see a large volume of transactions happening offline. Means there is no digital footprint, the sales is more at the cash level. So what we have seen and we have learned from our experience is that there are the VLEs or the village level entrepreneurs actually are providing various number of services. They can be a local mom and pop store or a kirana store as we call it, and they're also doing certain banking services and all. So what important here is bundling the entire group of services into one and positioning the VLEs as an omni-channel. When we speak of omni-channel, it is like their offering is more. So they are enabling the digital transaction. They are enabling the collectivization also, where they are connected to a group of smallholder farmers. They collect they aggregate the input requirements from them, and they can buy the inputs on their behalf, sell it at a lower price, which increases the profitability of the smallholder farmers. Enable the bank accounts of the smallholder farmers, enable QR based transactions so that there is a digital footprint, and the lenders can discount it against a cash flow based lending products, right? VLEs also play an important role, where we have seen in some of our experience, they work as DAS, digital agri service provider, where they are giving suggestions or tips on the best practices that can be followed, that should be followed in land management in case of crop yields. In fact, in some of our projects, we have tried to experiment with the AI-based engines, where they are acting as a conduit between the farmer and the experts. The experts are there across the country. The farmer is somewhere in Andhra Pradesh. There is some farm disease. What did they do? The village level entrepreneurs are actually clicking the photo and uploading it in the system, and the AI engine comes back and says, okay, this is the disease, this is the remedy, this is the medicine that you should apply. So now once that digital trail of the farm disease is also there and the remedy is also there, it not only acts as a business opportunity for the village level entrepreneurs, there is some credible data with the lenders also on the output. What can be the probable impact on the output, right? So Grameen has also created a GIS-based heat map of the country, where all these touch points at the ground, we have mapped the data of 3.5 million touch points across India, and with that as the center, as every pin code, we have also mapped the crop yield of that area, the literacy level of that area, the land holding pattern, and that works as a credible source of data information for the lenders also to do a data-driven credit decisioning or data-driven financial decisioning, right? On top of that, also we can go on with that. We can build some AI. We are in the process of building some AI engines, where we are adding the weather APIs. We have the land record. We have the crop yield. We have the weather APIs. Now we are trying to build an engine to do a predictive model, which the VLEs can also use. That okay, if this is the case, my farmer might need this kind of a product. Or the product owner would also understand, okay, this area would require this kind of product which can be pushed through these VLEs. So this increases the chances of business for the VLEs. This reduces the chances of crop loss for the farmers, and therefore the credit decisioning becomes much easier or the financial product designer can design a parametric insurance for that. So that kind of systems are being built and being regularly fine-tuned and used by the VLEs.
Fantastic. And I think this is just the starting. The kind of digital innovations that we see in this space is bound to grow. Thank you so much, Arindam, for that insight. Moving on to the program and building on the answer that Arindam just shared. Today we have the powerful technologies, the satellite, the IoT sensors, the crop monitoring platforms. How do you think these digital tools reliably verify the agricultural revenue so that lenders can trust the cash flow based lending models or similar lending models?
Okay, so thank you for that question. Like we have some pilot across the world that's operational through IoT platforms, through next generation of Internet of Things and blockchain technology. And for instance, we are talking about only yield, export, profit, such words, but world is moving towards sustainability. So for that, we have both the very basic level models and very advanced level models are there. So for instance, I'll give some examples from New Zealand. Indian IT companies are implementing using AI based techniques. So you can just scanning a QR code, you will know from which field, which date the farmers have harvested, how far it has gone, what is the carbon footprint, to take an informed decision whether you will like to consume that product or not. So that is a consumer empowerment. For instance, if everybody has purchasing power nowadays, right? So we buy strawberries, let's say in Indian market, a little bit costs around 350 rupees, 250 rupees, but it traveled from Netherlands, right? So such decisions can be taken because if you are like vocal for local, or you were talking about Atmanirbhar, and it will not only build on that, it will tell how much is the nutrition profile, how much water has been used. For instance, in India takes pride in exporting basmati. Last year we have export in a tune of $5 billion US. And for growing 1 kg of basmati of export quality, we spend more than 3,000 liters of water.
So it's water export.
So it is water export. So who will tell that decision, right? This is the model these different institutions are building. And I would admit, being in the government sector have been a little slow. So we need a hand holding, we have the know-how, but there should be a merge between the to penetrate at the level of farmer through FPOs. We need to have enablers like financial institutions and technology firms, and even the civil society activists. If everybody will talk about sustainability, the things will happen. And just to remind that India one model does not fit all. Our agroclimatic system is so diverse, and we should have district level targets on like the you say resource use efficiency. We are giving a recommendation, let's say agronomist will come and say that you give 60 kg of urea, 40 kg of DAP and NPK and things like that. We teach these to farmers a very basic level, but we don't monitor that how much nitrous oxide is reduced, is eliminating, the emitting, what is the carbon status of the soil, what microbiota is getting destroyed out of that. So such data we don't have. So we need much advanced sensors. Thankfully, the ISRO is working very proactively, and we have like satellite imagery. It is needs some kind of validation. Some of my collaborators, we are working on those aspects for satellite positioning that take high resolution data for multiple sensors. We have like more than 72 parameters we are capturing from real data from India's farming field. However, this data is keep on improving with the advancement of technology and reliability. Once those are in place, we'll be able to predict those models much better. But coming to the advanced country, why it happens? Because that is more organized. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury, and our farm holds are very small, like 2 hectare per farmer, let's say 1.5 acre. So we need help from FPOs here. And if we can incentivize those, that who is let's say it's direct credit transfer through PM Kisan Nidhi, let's say it is coming bank account through DBT schemes. But if it is linked to that, what best practices they are doing. Let's say madam will agree with me that if some farmer is, let's say, growing a crop which is rich in zinc, and during COVID everybody took that pill for zinc, I don't want to take the brand name, but you paid some money. Let's say some farmer is growing 1 kg of that cereal rich in zinc, which is biologically available, and equivalent, is that farmer is getting something, why the farmer will grow that, and who will take those data. So these are the very food for thought. We need to, if you want to really move fast forward, our policies will come to that point later on, has to be very proactive and responsive to those new challenges. I think I'll stop here. Yeah.
So thank you so much. I think the kind of examples that you have shared, I think that's been a lot of learning for the students, especially sitting in the group here. Moving on to Aparna. Aparna, which financial products are most promising? Whether it is cash flow loans, whether it is produce linked credit or revenue backed financing, and what models reduce lender risk while also improving the farmer's access to capital?
I think thank you for that question. And I think like one of the panelists said, I think India is such a vast country. We can't be looking at it with one model fits all. I think finance in that sense is very similar as well, right? I think maybe just building on what Bharti, Sangram and Arindam have already said. Can you guys hear me or do I need the mic? Better?
Oh, mic is better.
Okay. Yeah, so I think coming to what kind of models work best, I think just picking up already from what Bharti, Arindam and Sangram have already mentioned, what has happened in the last couple of years with the advent of more technology, whether it's mobile phones as Arindam was talking about, whether it's the satellite imaging etc. that is now available. We've constantly been hearing that smallholder farmers don't have access to affordable credit. Unfortunately, that still remains the case. But today, a lot of fintechs, are innovating. They're starting with, understanding the farmer needs. So it's not that I, just go up and set up an NBFC without even understanding what area am I servicing. Different crops might have different cycles. So you need to have loan products which are well suited, and then so that farmers can access those in time so that they can get access to the right quality inputs, etc. So understanding the agri life cycle of a particular crop, whatever's grown in that region, becomes extremely important. I think keeping this in mind, we're seeing a couple of fintechs who have been innovating, because we do realize, as Bharti also mentioned, a lot of the smallholder farmers, that's 86% of the farmer population today in India, they don't have large size land holdings. So oftentimes, while there are obviously government schemes in place, it increases lenders' risk because they want collaterals, they want land or some other equipment or some other anything sort of personal property, etc., against which they can do the lending, which oftentimes farmers don't have. A lot of them don't even have the land in their names. When we look at it from a gender lens, when you're talking about women smallholder farmers, that situation is even more sort of adverse, right? Because the land holdings are not in their names. So keeping this reality in mind, how do you actually design financial products? A, get them access to timely credit, affordable credit. That's very, very important, while also reducing the lender's risk. So those are some of the ingoing design principles that one has to solve for. Now coming to the innovation that is happening in this space and what is really the need. So one is, of course, as Arindam also touched upon, leveraging technology, leveraging satellite. A lot of fintechs are now starting to use alternate credit scoring mechanisms. So that's okay if you may not have a land holding, but at least given the size of the land that you're working on, or the crop that you're working with, is that crop getting access to the right quality inputs? Is there any sort of impending disease, and hence what will the produce really look like? Based on all of these methodologies, they are developing certain farm-based scores and then lending to farmers based on that. The second big thing that has happened, as Bharti touched upon, is the aggregation of smallholder farmers. So FPOs has come in, VLEs have come in to come in the form of intermediaries, and banks and NBFCs feel much more comfortable lending to a group of farmers rather than individual farmers, right? The third thing that I would say that we're now trying to work on along with the Grameen Foundation is to say, how do you actually get access to higher ticket size loans and longer term financing? Because these agri cycles, you have to be you have to understand them, and given the how quickly climate events are happening, there's climate change that's going on. Sometimes the sowing season will come early, sometimes it's going to get delayed. If I bind my farmer and say you will only get credit for 60 days or you will only get loans for 90 days, it often leads to some sort of distress selling, or they're not able to access finance at the time that they need it to get high quality inputs. So how do you actually work with them to enable longer term loans as well as higher ticket size loans so that they can get access to climate smart inputs, assets? They can actually start putting up some of these processing units closer to where they are so that they can capture more of this value close to the farm gate as well. So these are some of the things that we're working on. It does come back to saying, okay, fine, are you able to design loan products which keep in mind the agri cycle? So it could be produce linked, it could be keeping in mind when the farmer is actually going to have access to that cash after selling. The third thing is actually to minimize the price risk. What happens now, suddenly, I've grown a lot of tomatoes, I go out into the market, I'm able to sell them say for 5 rupees per kg. But if I were to actually spread this out over time, I might be able to get a higher value for that. So is there enough storage infrastructure? Now that's not a finance problem per se, but if there is enough good quality storage infrastructure, that will ensure again that the farmer is getting access to the right kind of price when they need it. So that's the other price risk mechanism that is, now we're starting to see with a lot of these storage facilities coming up across the country, which are well managed, well maintained, which then allow the farmer to borrow against whatever produce that they're storing over here. So if I'm depositing X thousand kgs of a certain, say, tomato or whatever other crop, potato, I'm then able to lend against that. And as and when NBFCs start getting comfortable with saying, okay, how will the value of, say, the potato move, or how will the value of the other crop move, they are then able to give you price against that. Their own understanding needs to improve. So there's a lot of capacity building that's also required at the financial institution level as well, so that they understand what is it that they're underwriting, they understand the risk, and that they're able to lend against that as well.
I think that's definitely a lot of steps forward in the direction or yield-based, reduce fluctuations in agricultural income and increase lender confidence. And what are the insurance models that actually work on the ground? If you can share some examples.
Yeah, so Yasmin, on this, parametric insurance plays a very important role in building the lender's confidence, while we have crop insurance as well as parametric insurances, but unfortunately the insurances are not that popular. It is not popular among the smallholder farmers, and they do not understand the value of it. So a lot of effort needs to go in the literacy level, I can say, financial literacy at the smallholder farmers level, and some live examples how they can benefit from having an insurance. Mostly in India we are pushing the crop insurances, and there is some bit of work getting done in the field of parametric insurances, but with the changing climate and every year we see certain climatic activities which hinders the crop yield, which hinders the entire cycle. For example, the recent cyclone in Andhra, we have seen how the paddy crop has been impacted in that area, because our team is also working over there, right? So parametric insurances are not that popular in India so far. The heat insurances, the cold insurances and all. Last time Delhi touched 50 degrees Celsius, right? So it's an urban location. It has an impact, and a wider impact as well. So parametric insurance, which is something which I feel personally needs to be focused on. But then to make it popular, the vehicle has to be changed. Instead of insurance per se, insurance coming in as isolation, as a product to be sold, the easier way or the more impact creation would be done if it is bundled inside the product, if it is insulated inside the lending product itself. That automatically brings down the risk of the lender, as well as the farmer is also protected against that. And the best part of the parametric insurance is that with the happening of that particular event, the payout automatically triggers. Right? So the payout is automatically triggering and hitting the bank account of the smallholder farmer, which ensures the cash inflow in case of some natural activity for which they have already been insured. So this automatically brings down the cost of risk taking from the lender's perspective. And also this can be offered as a group insurance scheme. Like a set of producers, a set of farmers working on certain agri value chain in a particular district or a particular block can collectively take a group insurance. If the lender is also same, then it can be combined with the lending product as a bundled offering under a group insurance scheme, which brings down the cost of the insurance as well. So that way, while we are focusing on crop insurance, I feel equal importance should be given to the parametric insurances as well.
Okay. And I think that's a very good suggestion, and I'm sure that's the practice also where the insurance is bundled with the lending products.
Parametric insurance in the agri lending space, so far there is not much of a bundling happening.
Okay. Okay. Great. So Bharti, moving on to you, we want to talk about the market linkage models. So finance alone is not enough without a stable market access. So what market linkage models can generate predictable, stable income flows for farmers, whether it is contract farming or whether it is retailer tie-ups, FPO-led aggregation as you mentioned, and which model is truly scalable?
So I think the basic purpose of setting up farmer producer organizations was also for aggregation, both demand and supply. But then not everything needs to be marketed through the FPO. I think that part also we have to remember. What is happening currently, because every model has to speak to what is the reality. The reality is that with too much focus on FPO level sales, what is happening at the producer level or the cluster level is missed. While anybody, even we working as a CBBO or capacity building organization with FPOs, we focus on the FPO. But much of the trade is happening, majority is happening on the ground. So it doesn't mean if you are focusing on an institution, you should not focus on individuals. So how you have to see which product is fit for which market at what scale. So some sale can happen at individual level, some sale does happen at the cluster level. So even the producer groups, which were the foundations of the FPOs, 100% ignored, I would say. I would make that very tall claim, but actually it is like that because the focus has shifted on the companies. Foundational, the clusters, producer groups, which can also act as platforms for sale and better marketing are ignored. So how do we revive that? That particular model, the basic architecture, like SHGs are important, federations are important. But if you forget about SHGs, federations will weaken. So in the same ways, producer group level, we have to see the institutional model. Second is, in the technical part, we have to see what kind of commodity-based models will yield results. So one example which I will draw from what he also said is that, how do you have these nutrition focused or already augmented crops? So even that can be a model. Then you develop a cluster around it. It works. So similarly, we have tried with the agroforestry models. So you can do biochar. Nowadays that model is also set up. So biochar and credits. We have to test it out as per geographies and then take calls which models are working in which situations. We recently piloted something which is developing, but then already the brand has been registered by the FPO itself. Is that how do you get different FPOs not to compete, but to work on different parts of the value chain? Then, for example, in mustard, if everybody starts selling mustard or mustard oil, who is going to buy? While local market itself is a big buyer. So what we did was we got one FPO to do only cultivation aggregation, second to do the first level processing, third will work on the process cleaning, refining, bottling and branding. One is working on the other products, byproducts which are coming like oil cake. So that way what happens is each one is focused on their particular part of the value chain. There is less competition, and last 3 months not even one thing they had to sell outside. We had deliberately bought some 60 kg for team members to promote the FPO, but actually it is being consumed locally because the local demand is that much, and the model is also not setting up any competition between FPOs. So you have to see what model works in terms of institution, in terms of the product design, product choice, processing level of processing you want to do, and then we have still not started working on the ancillaries. It's like just the corporates, right? In agriculture also it's the same. So there are ancillary functions. So even bottles. Why we are getting bottles for Calcutta, for East Burdwan, from Ahmedabad? It's also a carbon issue, right? That the transport cost is higher. That the carbon generated due to transport is higher. Why don't we have local ancillary setup? So we have to think about holistic models. Once we start doing that, there is a lot of scope. The same piece of land, well nurtured and with all the good practices, natural farming practices and everything, and combine it with models which are holistic, and still the Mahatma's statement of how do you have villages as units of prosperity and see there is self-sufficiency, it is important and it works. From our experience we say it works. How do you localize things?
Thank you so much, Bharti. I think very valuable inputs. I think the model will have to be completely holistic. So coming to you, Sangram, and actually building on what Bharti just mentioned and linking it with science. So how can we bridge science with farmer level input, right? So say for example, India produces world-class research in agronomy, climate modeling, soil science, remote sensing, but translation to field impact is limited.
Sure.
Right? So what mechanisms, whether it is incubators, accelerators, field partnerships, what is it that we can do to bridge this gap between the scientific breakthroughs and the real ground impact?
Thank you for that excellent question. So let me put it in a different way. Like when Bill Gates came to India and visited my alma mater at IRI, so he was amazed to see the strength of India's agriculture. And let me reiterate that India's any vaccination program was successful because of we have resources, manpower, everything in place. Thanks to the lady who carried in a small ice bucket to the last mile. And fortunately, in this country, we have the KVKs in each and every district. Unfortunately, they have been broken, the linkage is broken from like taking the cutting edge science to the last farmer. So the KVKs is in a, if you go and visit anybody knows that what is the nearest KVK here? Surprisingly, nobody visits that. So that, and thankfully the Bharati's organization, the FPOs, the activists, they are working very tirelessly towards farmer. So if government institutions like KVKs will be strengthened and they will train the trainer like the FPOs, the farmers, then these linkages can be established. And also we have to be like giving the jobs to our youngster. So they are the incubators and the startups. So they are learning through their, let's say, your AI, the YouTube or some peer learning. But nobody is there to, mentor them. So that linkage is critical to strengthen. For instance, I'll give some examples. Everybody is crying of like Delhi NCR's pollution, the air, the water quality. Science has done, we have the know-how how to solve it. Let's say there is residue burning, that's a critical issue, and everybody knows that if the farmer adopt zero tillage farming as a default practice, no burning will happen. And the agronomists, the scientists have demonstrated that work fantastic. We have like the microbial consortia, if you spray it, within 3 weeks, all the residues will disappear. We have the crops, the seeds, everything, but there is an intent to implement. So scientists cannot, go out and solve all these problems. And sometimes we are forced to visit the farm, the villages. We are not best at it. So that is what is needed. So if, let's say, let's say in Western country, if you have a snow blizzard, whole government machinery will be in the active mode, in a SOS mode. They will be clearing the land, the roads, spraying the salt, and so many things. Let's say our house is on fire, and we are waiting for a command that somebody will come and solve this crisis. It's not going to happen. So if we have real-time data that our farms are burning, the SOS should be given to the fire department and penalize the people who are doing it, and that should be those people who are not burning, they should be given some credit. So then only this exemplary things can be implemented, and proactiveness is important. So fortunately, say it's not that we have not done much. So when India has to, because I proactively worked with Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, that we implemented a policy. We are proud that it is best in the world. That European Union has their own positioning. America has a very liberal policy, but India took a middle path to implement the genome edited crops, which are of SDN1 and SDN2 type. It got clearance from Ministry of Environment and Forest and Department of Biotechnology. But if we talk of such issues, sarcastically I can say that we want our farmers to be poor forever. But that's not the case. Government is working, but somehow the linkage needs to be strengthened, and it is strengthened on a war footing. If we don't do it, please, if somebody is taking a note, put a strong point across that we need to really care about our farmers, if not farmer, ourselves, because if pollution happens, if there is no separate chamber you can put a air purifier, the air, the water you drink, the emission we are doing from the chemical synthetic fertilizers, that is living for 115 years, and it is more potent than 265 or 300 times than carbon dioxide. That's nobody is talking about. And how much unnecessary wastage we are doing that within the old school recommendations. And it's not that we have to reinvent the wheel. Scientists are saying again and again to the government that we have the solution. Please implement. So unfortunately, ma'am, this is not being implemented on the field. So that's my point. I can go on and on for each and every aspect, but it's a very complex issue. We need to address at district level, at village level, and even sometimes in a, like let's say somebody is doing corporate farming at farmer level. Until and unless we are responsive, it's not going to solve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think both Bharti and Aparna have traveled from Delhi for the session, and that was the first question when we met. How's Delhi? You know, the kind of...
last week I was there.
Yeah. So I think a very difficult time for Delhiites. Moving on to Aparna, now that he has already talked about, a very strong need for government intervention and policy changes, what are the policy reforms that you would recommend for accelerating the adoption of all that we've discussed so far?
Before I answer that, maybe I want to just add a point to what Sangram mentioned. I think similar to the role that you were talking about, incubators and accelerators, I think a live case is work that we had done with the Punjab government, where we set up a public-private partnership. So essentially what that did, I think just to maybe make the point with an example, no one person can solve any of the development issues. These are sticky issues, they've been around for a long time, right? And every year with the climate vulnerability increasing and the events going up, the frequency going up, things are going to be thrown at us from different angles. We just need to be ready to catch it. Now, one such thing that we were trying to do with an accelerator in Punjab is to say, okay, how do you actually connect government, so that the policy push comes from there. How do you actually connect academia so that all the good research that is actually happening in the institutes, how do you bring them? And then just given the number of education institutes that are there, whether it's like an ISER, whether it's IIM Amritsar, Plaksha, any university, any college that's there, how do you actually bring a lot of that business and finance focus as well to work together? Because if you truly want change, it will have to come through a nexus of technology, policy and business working hand in hand. And that is a critical role an accelerator can play. So like you have some of the best minds working today on problems. They've come up with all the right solutions, and as you were mentioning, but now how do you take that technology or that research out of the lab and actually put it into practice? So what we actually did was, given Punjab and it's sort of interplay in the agri space, we worked with a couple of progressive FPOs, farmer collectives, and said, work with the accelerator, test out some of the inputs that are being generated in the lab, some of the new technology that's coming, and give live feedback. So you sometimes need that one institute playing the role of that glue that brings different inputs together. And there is no reason why something like this can't be replicated. I know Gujarat has its own model as well. But I think things like that, institutions like that, ecosystems like that can really help them scale up all the great research, innovation, technology that is coming up. And that's linked to the policy question that you had. I think a lot of the time the policies exist, right? It comes down to the implementation not really happening. Like the government's launched the 10,000 FPO scheme now. I think that's a great effort towards actually creating aggregation of smallholder farmers so that they have that collective bargaining power. Now you have on paper, I don't know, some 40,000, maybe that was the last count, it's probably higher now, FPOs that have come up. I think the focus now is to shift from quantity to quality of these FPOs. And like Grameen Foundation and other CBPOs, how do you actually provide them with the enabling ecosystem to be able to do that? That is, I think, in my mind, very critical, because when you have the right inputs flowing in, whether it's in the form of capacity building, market linkages, finance, it's all going to ultimately flow through these intermediaries like VLEs, like FPOs. How do you ensure that those institutions are strong enough to bring that last mile change as well? So in my mind, it's less policy but more implementation at this point in time. How do you improve governance, bankability, and almost bring about outcomes focus to that, right? It's not about my coming and saying that I have done X number of trainings for farmer producer organizations. What has that actually led to? Can I start holding my stakeholders accountable? I think those are the kind of discussions we need to be having. It's not about introducing one more policy. I mean, we have guarantee schemes in place, we have the FPO schemes in place, NIIF is there. So I think in terms of finance, putting policies, all of that, the government's doing it. It's now about strengthening the last mile infrastructure and how do you actually enable people, because just given the vast country that we have, you need to work with grassroots organizations. So how do you actually work with them, how do you enable them, how do you empower them and bring more accountability at the grassroots? I think those are the questions that we need to really be asking. But in terms of policy, I think the government's already taken a lot of good, at least from a finance perspective, I can say a lot of the right building blocks are in place. It's now about just making sure it's reaching the last mile as well.
Thank you so much, Aparna. And now the last question, and this question is for all of you. What is your vision for 2030? And what decisions do you think we must take today to reach that vision of 2030? Yeah, so we start with you, Arindam.
Well, so when we speak of Vision 2030, we should, to my mind, what comes is a strengthened FPO ecosystem. And when we call a strengthened FPO ecosystem, like Bharti mentioned, that there are a lot of interventions going in capacity building, training and other things, but there is also a thing called elite capture, where we see that it's one individual leading the show. So strengthening of ecosystem comes with more of corporatization and employment of professionals at key roles like the CEOs and the MDs and the board of directors of the world, which would ensure redistribution of profit. While we say that FPOs are good at collective bargaining, giving power, the income of the FPCs are increasing, whether it is trickling down to the smallholder farmers. So when it comes to that, we don't see still any FPCs doing a redistribution of profit in terms of dividend. There is no dividend declaration from any of the 10,000 odd FPCs which are active, making profit and all those stuff. So my vision is that when I call of a strengthened FPC, means a strengthened shareholder. And for that, governance with corporate governance is something that we have to look at. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So 2030, it's not only about the 2030. The policy matters should be very dynamic in nature, and it should be data driven. We have new technology in the horizon. It's already everybody is using your AI tools in their smartphones, and policy decisions has to be linked with that, with real time data. Instead of giving a target, let's say we want to export from this X amount from a PO or as a country as a whole, we should focus on how much responsive is that, how much usage efficiency that policy is bringing in. So that is the key cornerstone, and responsibility should be fixed. And unless we do that, it will be just another policy. So yeah, because nobody, and these policy decisions has to be empowered with farmers in their hand. If you are talking of the end user, they should be aware of their rights and do's and don'ts, and they should be rewarded for best practices. So you learn from your peers. Let's say we give some examples, but if somebody is following some best practice and not getting rewarded, so there is no incentive to implement a advanced policy. So we have to reward the best doers and penalize. If not penalize, we are a democratic country. That's okay. If we don't penalize, at least we should not encourage that practices. So then only, and there should be some end level empowerment. Who will implement that policy? So it should be like inhuman, some robots, some sensors. Who will do that? How will monitor that? Let's say I burning my farm, or I am using X amount of fertilizers, or some government officials has taken the very fertile land and allocated for a real estate agent. Who will do that? If we have data? No. So, and if let's say some FPOs is following agroforestry, they have a excellent carbon credit score. Are they going to, because this banking institution will follow there, like are they getting some credits they deserve? So if not, why they will care about it? So everybody is not aware about those things. So we have to be very proactive and implement and reward. So that's the key. Like instead of giving a model like prototyping, we have to scale up those policies at a district level. And it's not the role of a collector or a district magistrate to monitor. It's not going to happen that way. We should have a technocrat. If we are really serious about that, we should, as people who know the business, they should be in place and monitor. At least if we cannot employ those many inspectors, that's not going to work. At least technology driven, real time linked to the person or organization who are doing the best practice. So if we can scale up this model through policies, then something can work on ground. It's not that it is very blink picture. We have some best examples. They have worked. Let's say like we have done excellent job in, madam will agree with me that India's record on diversifying the crops is excellent. Because, but what is the cost? The Punjab and Haryana, or Indo-Gangetic Plain, when we realize that we have done a, very crime, so then we suddenly realized that we have to diversify one district, one product. That slogan came, and thanks to Prime Minister, and it is implemented. And also there is some emotional issues. We have to be very, red flag those things. Let's say everybody is pushing for organics. So we are a country of huge population, and also we have a export. We have to learn from our neighbors, let's say Sri Lanka. Some government think tank, they advise that you entire country should switch to organic. What happened to their tea estate? The economy crashed. So it's not that we should blindly implement organic farming. That's if anybody, common man I talk, they are advocate for strongly for organic. But what basis? We have to preserve our organic ecosystem ambience in a fragile agro ecosystem, not at the best where we are doing it is an integrated farming system. We should not use more fertilizer, more pesticides, or pesticides which are harmful. But there are certain issues that they are very sensitive. General public will not understand, and if those components will come to the policy, that people will push back, and it's not going to work. So, for instance, we have implemented, despite of all the opposition to the BT cotton in Gujarat, still the 95% of acreage is BT. It's not organic, but it has significantly reduced the pesticide usage. This is technology driven. So you should talk to the people who know the inside out, and we should have credible data, not emotional or your ideological positioning. So then only it will work. Everything should be coexist in a diverse agro-climatic conditions like our country. And we have the best we should promote the best practice of organic, get the best cost out of it to the farmer. That is excellent. Northeast is already organic. Many people are promoting for that natural farming system. Excellent. But if we scale up that as a whole, we will not be from food surplus 1965 to here. We have reached a long journey, and I would say that our food security is linked to our national security. We have learned from Prime Minister, let's say when Lal Bahadur Shastri ji was Prime Minister, everybody has to fast for half a day. And we have moved from there to the food surplus nation. And if we follow, let's say, and reduce our productivity through some emotional decision makings, then we are inviting the trouble. So there should be a balanced approach in our policy, and we should discourage the misuse of resources, focus on resource use efficiency. We should talk about how much nitrogen fertilizer reduction, how much pesticide reduction at district level happened, and those district magistrates should be rewarded, awarded at national level. They have done a fantastic job, and then only this will be implemented. Somebody will take this decision seriously. Otherwise, if I am not awarded or I have not get name and fame, why I will bother that something is getting destroyed? So those things we have to carefully manage, monitor, and give responsibility to people. I think I would stop here, and yeah.
Okay, so considering that our focus today has been on land-link aspects of social economy, I would say that 2030 is very near, right? I feel that we are already to 2025 is going 4 years, and for anything linked to land and livelihoods, 4 years is a pretty small, short period. So 2047, which everybody is talking about, seems more useful. So first thing is that we or any life cannot sustain the way we are managing the resources. So zero natural resource abuse for me is the first target, I would say, because if natural resources are healthy, intact and respected, then we all will survive. Otherwise nobody survives. We are not letting other beings survive and we will also not survive if this goes like this. So first thing is zero natural resource abuse. Second is we can talk about the zero poverty part. That we know that India has made tremendous gains in terms of poverty reduction, but there is wealth inequality. And when there is wealth inequality, you cannot speak to people about pollution if they are empty stomach. So things go hand in hand. So that zero poverty is an ideal goal that we can look at. And third is full inclusion, which also goes with the disparities. But then we know that there are exclusions of various kinds. Smallholders excluded from FPOs, women excluded from decision-making situations. So the exclusion mentality or to the me syndrome that we have, everyone, that I think needs to be tackled at different levels, whether it is policy, regulations, even philosophical or spiritual part, but then that has to be tackled. So for me, these three things, zero natural resource abuse, zero poverty and full inclusion. If we go towards that, many things I feel will fall in place.
Thank you so much, Aparna.
I think a lot has already been said. I think from my aspect, and I agree with Bharti, I think 2030 might be too short term. It's always good to be ambitious, but I think vision would really be to see how do we make agriculture aspirational. And that involves a lot of things in terms of continuing to be a food secure nation, smallholder farmers continuing to, not continuing, but actually earning the price that they deserve, so that the next generation is not leaving our villages and saying, I want to do something else, because there isn't enough land to till or it's not aspirational. So I think really thinking about it from a holistic way, what are the crops we should be growing, how can technology help there, what role finance can play, what innovations are needed, what landholding reforms are required as well. And I think looking at that holistically to say how do you make this aspirational so that the next generation actually wants to grow food which is better for the planet, better for us as well.
Thank you so much. I think that was a fantastic discussion and various views on land-linked models. I'm sure, I don't know how many of you have seen the latest movie of Jolly LLB, but it is so much linked to all that we've talked about today related to land and farmers, right? So, open to questions. We have the next few minutes for questions. Yes, sir, please.
I have a question to Sangramji and how do you elaborate about the Swadeshi model of Gandhi? Because we all believe of Swaraj. So how can we link up Swaraj and Swadeshi and organic also? So and another question, because the gentleman is saying about corporatization. So the small farmer, I'm working in a coastal area and hilly area with tribal people, and they have a small, a landholding pattern, 1.5 acre or 2 acres or so. And they have traditionally grown up like ragi and banti and bajra and all this. So how can we sustain? Because now everybody is talking about the cash crop and all this, but the local traditional cultivation, how can we sustain? That is very important. And even at policy level, even whatever our all policy makers are talking, even our politicians are also talking about this Swadeshi, but nobody is looking at a micro level, and nobody is consulting to local farmers. I think there are a number of organizations are working, government authorities are working, but never interacting with the local farmers. So how can we link up to small farmer, local farmer about this Swadeshi cultivation?
Yeah, sure. So, sir, excellent, and I must, I'm very happy that you asked that question, and it's very close to my heart. During my early days of training, we used to sit with farmers. In fact, I came from a farmer's background, from a remote village in Odisha. I have seen those practices myself at a village level, and there is no contradiction between the organic farming practices, even empowering smallholder farmers, along with the kind of farming for cash cropping, export oriented we are talking about. Here the linkage is broken. Let's say some farmer or village is practicing those things. Let's say somebody in the Assam is growing a rice which is called, we call it a war rice. Like we put it just in a water, it will be ready without cooking. So and also there's a northeast black rice. Fortunately, black rice has been marketed or hyped so much that it got the footage is needed. Some things needs to be done at consumer level to get the best price. And we have some farming system models already existing. And thankfully, Government of India, in India as a country, we have the second largest gene bank in the world at NBPGR New Delhi. And what we do is, as a scientific community, we keep those in the cold storage for years and years. And climate is a dynamic process, and we do timely adaptation of those crops. And thankfully, our small farmers are taking that challenge, and that is a best model. So that's what we initially, all the panelists agreed upon, that it has to be get some extra remuneration for the service they are doing to the nation. It's not their Atmanirbhar Gandhiji's concept of empowering the last line person. It is true, it is they are doing it, letter and spirit, but we are not rewarding them. We are forcing, the market is forcing them, just these practices are obsolete, not timely, and you are not going to get anything, you cannot compete. So that's the contradiction we see, and thankfully if they unite and use their land as a live lab. So Gandhiji always used to tell that you have to take the lab to land, and he himself, this cooperative revolution in Gujarat, it is Gandhiji was himself involved, and he always pro-science. So we do pro-science, and at the same time, we should not disregard the ancient wisdom. Those are, we don't have to reinvent those things. It is coming from generations and generations. We have to thankfully preserve it as a national asset. It is a live gene bank. And if some farmer, let's say NBPGR brings a government scheme that if you contribute X amount of your local seed to the gene bank, it's for 100 gram is equivalent to, let's say, 50 kg. It is rewarded. We bring to have, if farmers should raise their voice saying that we cannot sell our premium product in the market, it is a limited edition product. If some farm is, let's say, customizing something and is very premium, priceless, it should not sold in a thela. So it has to something, it's not MSP. We have to fight for that service we are doing, because tomorrow some climate change will happen, some disaster will come, some pest will, like corona for crops will come. Who will tolerate it? We will go back to gene bank and put our lakhs of seeds in the field. It's not going to happen that way. So in the policy draft or whatever advocacy we are doing, people like you should raise your voice. It should be heard that we are doing a premium service and it should be rewarded. And the government is doing it. Very few people getting national award for conserving a whole lot of genetic resources. But it has to be more democratic, more inclusive. So then only the coexistence of organic with the burden we are carrying to feed 150 billion people, and export demand will be met at the same time. And lands is disappearing with no time, with soil erosion, everything. So it's a very delicate situation. Thank you.
I think
Can I just quickly add? I think just building on top of that, I think what we've done with yoga, what we've done with haldi, we now need to do this with whatever smallholder. Why has it gone outside for us to realize the value, right? But marketing will play a huge role in this. And there is value that is coming from our soil, from what the smallholder farmers are doing. So we will need to sort of market it in that way as well, that this is rice or this is paddy, whatever, which is grown through natural farming ways in AP, or this is ginger or turmeric that's grown in Sikkim, which is organic. I think marketing, the way we've marketed yoga, and now the world looks at India like the yoga capital, and now there's tourism money coming in from that, which is then ultimately impacting the livelihoods of people, of the local people who are living there. I think we'll have to think about it from that perspective as well.
I just have something to add, especially when some products get marketed, say that is very regional and everything, a sense of elitism gets added to it, in the sense that it's only accessible to a few. How do we then look at it from a lens that we kind of curb that, and it still probably gets the popularity that you're talking about, but it's still accessible. So a lot of conversations on sustainability, a lot of conversation on this, we are trying to fight it, but then who is buying it, or who has that capacity? And then when we sit in meetings like these, and we're discussing land, so that's a conflicting thought that I was just having.
I'll just, actually it's a very important thing. For example, it may happen soon with millets, right? It is not something which is new. It was grown traditionally and communities used to eat, and maybe one generation, two generation above me were also eating. But then it gradually got sucked into the entire staple and MSP wheel. And now when it is coming back, is it going to be priced at a level that it becomes inaccessible to the communities is the question. And that's why when I said this example of mustard oil, we are happy that the oil is not leaving the community, right? It is giving us maximum satisfaction. Even our donor is asking, market kitna hua? So we said, market kya hua? Wo kha liya saaf tel. Arjimon se contaminated oil, if people would have eaten there, or they are consuming oil which you don't know, no FSSI, no license, versus they are at least eating something healthy, right? So they are the consumers, they are the producers, which is your Swaraj part, right? And first, they have the first charge over what they are growing. So the more we keep the industry also in their hands, means let them earn from their own produce, let them jump to the next level and not just be suppliers of raw materials processed elsewhere, sold elsewhere, priced elsewhere. Even price they have put. They didn't allow us to set the price. They said we'll set the price because they know what they can buy. It has a margin, but enough for them to sustain the business and let the consumers. So we have to think of, this is just one very small example, but we have to think of such ways in which the control does not go out of the hand of producers. Otherwise it is difficult. You are right. This fear is there.
But then, just a follow-up question. How do we also see the role of local hard bazaars being the important, playing the important role for the economy of the farmers?
I think I'll take these two questions. See, because this you said urban elite concept is coming here. Western countries has done it differently. So grow your own food. So that's a model called permaculture. That when you are associated with growing your own food and take pride, being an urban elite in a concrete jungle, you find a land or community, create a community and grow your own thing, and people are doing it and taking pride in that. They are making their hands dirty. So as a weekend project, people are doing it happily on a terrace, everywhere, and technology is available. It's not that we cannot grow. And sorry, madam, your another question I forgot.
It was about how the role of hard bazaars in the local economy.
So it's a cultural thing. See, when we go for buy the same thing in European market or American market, what their citizens are doing? They are giving a tip. Like, I am taking your premium product and I am not negotiating with you. Rather, I am paying from my pocket. I can afford that. But in contradiction, when we buy from such farmers, we are hard negotiator without rewarding them. So that mindset has to be changed.
No, but what about the local hard bazaar? What about the Sambalpuri market? What about the Chhattisgarh market? What about the Madhvi market?
Yep.
We are talking about the local market.
Yep.
When we are talking about the Hat Bazaar,
Yep.
means local tribal market.
Correct.
So everybody is coming there, they are putting their product there and they are getting good money. Instead of going in producing marketing,
Right.
they are getting more money there.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
sir.
also it's
Yeah, and-
for the travel and
yes.
taking things
Yeah,
to
very
the big
good.
markets. I mean,
Yeah.
To the
we
mandis.
should really be
Even I am giving a concrete example. I work in Chhattisgarh and Odisha. So they are local mawa. So local people are making a mawa production. So they are getting more money. Instead of they are giving in a that forest
Absolutely.
cooperation.
Absolutely.
Because there is a competition and which kind of quality. So people are just it's a good quality mawa. So we are giving this money.
Absolutely.
Like this.
And also,
So it's open market.
Okay, I think we can take these questions
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah.
Yeah.